Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the secrets hidden within corporate filings, and sometimes find out that a company is really just a fancy way of saying, we bought a building. Today we are diving into a new filing from Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated. They just acquired a big apartment complex, and we are going to break down what that means for their business. And you as investors, if you appreciate getting straight insights from complex corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where we can discuss these findings further. Alright, so this filing is from Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated, a real estate company that focuses on residential properties. The big news here is an announcement dated the 29th of September 2025 where they report the completion of an important acquisition. They have acquired a place called Skytop Apartments. This is a 361 unit residential community located in Cincinnati, Ohio. They bought it for a cool $88.5 million. Now, while that price tag might seem high, the company emphasizes that this was an arm's length deal, meaning it was a fair negotiation with an unrelated seller. They looked at things like rental income, expected costs for the property, and the local area to decide if it was a good deal. So how did they pay for it? Well, it was a mix of things. They put in about $13 million of their own money. Then they got a big loan from Fannie Mae for around $57.5 million. This loan is for the Skytop property itself, and it has a fixed interest rate of 4.98%, and it is due in October of 2035. Some of you might know Fannie Mae as a government-sponsored enterprise that supports the housing market. Finally, they also borrowed about $22 million from their existing credit line with KeyBank Incorporated, so a pretty standard leveraged acquisition using borrowed money to increase potential returns. Now, the really juicy part for us is where they present the financial details. Since this is a significant acquisition, they have to provide financial statements related to the property they bought. This includes an independent auditor's report and financial information for Skytop Apartments itself. They also provide something called pro forma financial information. Think of this as a what-if scenario where they show you what the company's finances would look like if this acquisition had happened at an earlier date. This helps investors understand the potential impact. The auditors, Plante Moran Incorporated, have looked at the financial statements for Skytop Apartments. They say that the financials present fairly the revenues and certain operating expenses. They also point out something important, that these statements were prepared specifically for this filing with the SEC and are not intended to be a complete financial picture of the property. This is common when a property is being acquired because the focus is on the income and expenses directly tied to that property at the time of sale. Let's look at the numbers for Skytop Apartments. For the year ending the 31st of December 2024, the property brought in about $4.1 million in rental and other property revenues, after subtracting certain operating expenses which were around $2 million. The property had revenues in excess of these expenses of about $2.1 million. Now, for the first 6 months of 2025, the revenues were $3.76 million and the operating expenses were just under $2 million, leaving a surplus of about $1.77 million. It is important to remember these are not the full expenses. Notably, things like depreciation, which is the accounting way of spreading out the cost of an asset over its useful life, and interest expenses are excluded from these specific statements. In the notes, they explain that this presentation is to meet CEF rules. They also mention that the property did not become stabilized, meaning it did not reach 90% occupancy until the second quarter of 2025. This means the 2024 numbers reflect a property still in its lease up phase, while the 2025 numbers include both lease, up and stabilized operations. Now, let us dive into those pro forma statements. These are really important for understanding the potential future performance of Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated, including this new property. The company prepared these to show what their financial situation would look like if they had acquired Skytop Apartments earlier. The balance sheet as of the 30th of June 2025 assumes the acquisition happened on that date, and the income statements assume it happened back on the 1st of January 2024. Looking at the pro forma balance sheet as of the 30th of June 2025, the total assets for Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated are projected to be around $1.07 billion after this acquisition. This includes their existing real estate investments valued at over $811 million. Cash and cash equivalents stand at about $113 million after accounting for the acquisition. On the liabilities side, mortgages payable total roughly $394 million, and they have about $22 million drawn on their KeyBank credit facility. Total liabilities come in at around $449 million. This leaves total equity at close to $490 million. These numbers give us a snapshot of the company's financial health after integrating Skytop Apartments. Now for the income statement for the first 6 months of 2025 on a pro forma basis, total revenues are projected at about $37 million. This includes the rental income from Skytop Apartments, which is about $3.76 million. Total expenses are looking to be around $48 million. This leads to a net loss of about $14.7 million attributable to common stockholders for this 6-month period. It's important to remember this period includes adjustments for the acquisition, and for the full year of 2024 on a pro forma basis, total revenues are projected at around $54.3 million. Skytop Apartments contributed about $4.1 million to this. The total projected expenses for the year are about $76 million, leading to a net loss attributable to common stockholders of approximately $6.5 million. Now, a net loss doesn't automatically mean bad news, especially when you are looking at pro forma numbers for a recently acquired asset. It reflects the costs associated with the acquisition and the initial integration. The company is in a growth and acquisition phase, which can temporarily impact reported net income. And there you have it, folks. Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated has expanded its portfolio with Skytop Apartments, financed through a combination of equity, debt, and credit facilities. The pro forma financials give us a glimpse into how this acquisition is expected to impact their overall financial picture. Now, here is my take on all this. Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated is a company that is actively acquiring assets, which in the real estate world often means they are trying to grow their revenue streams and market share. The acquisition of Skytop Apartments seems to be a strategic move to expand their holdings in a significant market. The financing structure appears standard for real estate deals using debt to leverage returns. However, the pro forma statements show an initial net loss attributable to common stockholders. This is not necessarily a red flag on its own, as integrating a new property involves expenses, and the company is looking to the future stabilization and profitability of Skytop. A key point to watch will be how quickly Skytop Apartments reaches its stabilized occupancy of 90% and generates consistent positive cash flow to offset the acquisition costs and debt. The inclusion of an independent auditor, S-report and detailed pro forma statements shows a commitment to transparency, which is always a good sign for investors. The risks mentioned in the filing, such as general economic conditions and market risks, are standard for real estate companies and are something to keep an eye on. Overall, Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated seems to be pursuing a growth strategy through acquisitions. The success of this strategy will hinge on their ability to effectively manage and optimize their acquired properties and ensure they contribute positively to the bottom line in the long term. We will certainly be keeping an eye on their future filings to see how Skytop Apartments performs and how it impacts their overall financial health. Alright, that is our breakdown of Bluerock Homes Trust Incorporated's latest filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company? Future, do you think this acquisition will be a winner? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description for more discussions like this. Thanks for watching, see you next time.